Good morning. It's Everett. I'm just listening to Paul's homeroom this morning, and he had just talked about something. Um, oh, heck. Let me just get out of here a minute. He had talked about meaning, and I'm just going to share my screen here a minute. Okay, so we're going to go over here. And I am going to try to play this, but I don't think I can from here. So how do I even do this?
Or it will get altered or doctored or something like that. Because, Craig kept making the point about flourishing. And I think if there's one thing that we've seen is that human beings don't flourish without meaning. And if human beings and even sort of a demotion of meaning where meaning isn't sort of all around us, but is only imagined to be something, let's say, inside our noggins, and that maybe individually or collectively we project, but it doesn't have any reality beyond that. Human beings suffer and die. Well, what do you mean they die? They kill themselves over lack of meaning. You might argue that without.
All right. So I'm going to get myself back up here somehow. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hi, there I am. I imagine I'll have to edit out a lot of that stuff as I learn this new technology. Um, but I wanted to share something with you that I wrote in my Substack a little while ago that reminded me so much of this. I'm just going to share that now. All right, so if I go over to my Substack and I look at one that's called Take My Life. So my Substack is actually at EJ Vroon. EJ is what a lot of people call me. This one's called Take My Life. And I just wanted to share a little bit of it with you because, part of coming out of the lurk for me was going on to Substack because I've always been better at writing down my thoughts and feelings than I am at saying them. And so I'm just going to go through a couple things out of here. Um, Take My Life is sort of a book title that I'd kind of dreamed up that if I wanted to write about something impactful in my life, it's um, like Paul was talking about suicide and my own kind of experiences with suicide. So I'm just going to go over a few points in here, and you can always go find it if you want to find it. Um, so Take My Life, there's three stages here, and the first one is the process of becoming my own person, of taking my life into my own hands. And I'm doing a rando with Paul on Thursday, so I'm not going to say too much about my childhood, but um, basically, because of the experiences I had, I learned to take life into my own hands, right? And so I turned away from parents, I turned away from, I guess, sources of support outside of me, and I got hacked by a number of things. And I can get into that a little more lately. So that's the first part of Take My Life is I don't like the way my life is going. I'm taking it back. And I had linked to basically It's My Life by Bon Jovi. So that was kind of like the theme of that. The second variation, and the seed of an idea behind this article was planted last century. So that was back in the 1990s when I worked in community mental health. And I'd gone to a workshop by a suicidologist, and it was really amazing, downtown East Side in Vancouver. And that was where I finally came to terms with the idea that I had thought about suicide before. For me, it was never really a plan, but more like little flashes. What a therapist I saw, she called them hopelessness flashes. And so um, I was able to open myself to books about depression, books about suicide, things like that. And so the second variation of Take My Life had to do with suicide. And again, I don't want to get into that too much yet. I can always talk about it more later. Um, and so the third, uh, I guess, the third variation of Take My Life was um, the idea of, Lord, you take my life, because I tried taking my own life into my own hands. Um, and I even thought or had flashes of taking my life, just being tired of fighting internally, living a life where I was in conflict. And so the third one was, Lord, take my life. And so um, there were a few sort of details in that story that brought me to that point, but really it was Voyage of the Dawn Treader, C.S. Lewis. And one of the characters, Eustace Scrubb, kind of reminded me of me, like where I was at that time. I don't think I was really that unpleasant all the time to people, but Eustace is this character that's just kind of horrible to deal with. And basically Eustace, throughout the story, starts to see the need to change. He becomes a dragon and he sees how ugly he's become. And so he's trying to heal himself. And basically, Aslan, the lion, cut deeply into Eustace to take off his dragon skin. And I knew that was what I needed too. So I asked the Lord of Life, Jesus, to take my life. And that's the sort of the third variation and where I came to. And so um, there's more to the story, but I just kind of wanted to lay that out there and thank Paul for this little homeroom reminder of some of my own story.